If you guys have not seen the ERMES Gasparini and Alazan Muratov podcast on Engin Terzi's channel, make sure to go check that out. In this podcast, they talked quite a bit about their own upcoming match, but of course, they had to get into the Devin versus LEVAN match. As we've talked about before, ERMES has a very interesting perspective since he's pulled both Devin and LEVAN very recently, so he could potentially have the best idea of what each puller needs to do in order to win. Let's take a look at this clip of ERMES explaining how to beat LEVAN.
But I'm sure if we go with LEVAN, his hand is too big. It's very difficult to hold his power here. You can hold him here. No, with pronation, with a lot of back pressure. And this, I think, is the only way to beat him. Devon, the back pressure is not, I don't think is enough strong to hold all the power of LEVAN here.
So what I am hearing ERMES say is basically that attempting to fight LEVAN for height is just a losing battle. He said there's no way that you could defeat LEVAN in the setup because his hand is just way too big and his back pressure is way too much. So ERMES is saying that the only realistic way to defeat LEVAN is to essentially surrender the high ground but then topper LEVAN from underneath his own hand by rising through your thumb. He's saying that you can't rise through your index knuckle, but you can only rise through your thumb. So in other words, do exactly what ERMES did in their match. ERMES lost his wrist every single round inside of straps, and LEVAN's hand control overall was clearly way above ERMES. But ERMES was able to find this one little spot inside of straps where he was able to stop LEVAN. And that was by pulling through his thumb and out the back instead of trying to go over the top. The problem, however, is that ERMES' back pressure is a lot stronger than Devin's is. ERMES talks about how he doesn't know that Devin is going to be able to implement this same strategy because of that. In all likelihood, Devin will probably need to be able to go over the top instead of going underneath like ERMES could. Now, ERMES does mention that there is a possibility Devin could get something there with his King's move through pronation, but the issue is that it is still going to be very difficult for Devin to get a stop above the pin pad. And this is exactly what we saw the last time Devin pulled LEVAN. He did end up kinda top rolling LEVAN underneath his own hand, just like ERMES, and he did just barely get a tiny bit of purchase on LEVAN's wrist, but the issue was that by this point, it was already too late and called a pin. ERMES, on the other hand, had enough elbow flexion that he was able to get the stop a few inches above where Devin got the stop, so even with his wrist cracked back, he was still well above the pin line. But to be totally honest, I don't think that this is at all what Devin is going for. I don't think Devin is going to try to King's move underneath, Crazy George style. I think he is going to straight up try to control height against LEVAN by first rising through his index knuckle, forcing LEVAN to drop his radial deviation, and then once that happens, Devin can drop his own radial deviation accordingly and pull through the thumb to the degree that LEVAN will hold on to him. Whether or not this is remotely possible is another story, but if Devin does end up getting crushed again, I would really love to see ERMES get another chance at some point after that. While I don't see what ERMES is saying working very well for Devin, I really could see ERMES being able to beat LEVAN at some point using the strategy he's talking about here. Of course, ERMES' goal would be to get that stop through the strategy he mentioned and then eventually transition to a press just like he did in round 3. Let me know if you guys think ERMES has a chance at some point in the future with that lane. Exactly 3 weeks out from today.